Well, I said he is living history. And in a way, he's like part of Washington, like part of Nelson Mandela, or Martin Luther King, Lev Walesa. He was a long time in jail. And I'm sure that's when you have the opportunity to go within yourself, to learn who you are, what is your purpose in life. And purpose is a profound, meaningful word. And he has purpose, but he also performed. Purpose and performance is what leaders do. They have dreams, they share ideas, but they make things happen. They perform. And that's where here my friend has been. And he still is striving throughout the world, carrying the message of democracy and freedom, the message of a market economy, and the message of equal opportunities to all. In a way, the founding fathers' dream of this nation. So that's why we invited him to come here, and now he's here to take some of your questions or comments. So please now, if you want to participate, there are the microphones.
Hi, my name is Saji Gopal. The question is, what is your opinion on the execution of Ken Saro-Wiwa, the famous Nigerian writer, author? Right, what is your opinion on Ken Saro-Wiwa? The second question is, in Nigeria there are a lot of oil resources, and who are being benefited by this exploration of oil resources? Is it the people of Nigeria or the American or Western oil companies? Thank you.
Well, maybe for those of you who do not know, Ken Saro-Wiwa was an activist. He was arrested just before I was arrested. And while I was languishing in jail, he was killed. He and 8 others from the Niger Delta area, from his tribe, the Ogoni. So what he's asking is, what is my view? My view is that Saro-Wiwa should not have died. That Saro-Wiwa died was unfortunate, and the reason for which I went to prison, and I could jolly well have been killed if not for the hue and cry of the international community, is the same reason that killed or led to Saro-Wiwa's death. Who are the beneficiaries of Nigerian oil? I think the oil companies are beneficiaries. Nigerians are beneficiaries. I think the question really is not how the benefit is shared, well, depending on how you want to look at it. I have looked at it when I was in government. Don't forget that when you are an entrepreneur, you are taking a risk. And if you are taking a risk, you must earn some reward for the risk that you have taken. Particularly for oil. If now given a block, you are not too sure whether when you dig, you get oil there. You start digging, and when you get oil, there must be some benefit to you. My own concern is how Nigeria spends the money that goes to Nigeria's hand from oil, I believe we could show more prudence in the way we spend that money. That would be.
Yeah, let me add a comment here. In Mexico, it's been an ongoing debate, the case of energy. And there is those that claim that the oil should be a monopoly in hands of the state, that the oil is ownership and property of the people of that nation, gifted this resource by God. And others, like me, that have seen how Mexico has made out of the oil industry a corruption through that monopoly. And the need to change and open that industry to private investment associated with public investment. And that's what they have in Nigeria. As the president said, the good things about it, there might be questions about how is it being done and how it's being allocated. But the main thing and concern should be how that income is invested. And I've seen how Brazil has changed his history, his economic history, by the courageous decision of President Cardoso that opened the industry to investment, either foreign or local, to associate private and public investment. I hope that now, for the first time, Mexico has the real opportunity to get away from the only one nation remaining with the oil and the energy as a monopoly of the state and move towards market principles and associating public and private. I really think, and I'm convinced, that with Presidente Peña, this will happen. And this will happen because in one side, we need strong presidents with capacity to carry on with decisions that have been delayed in our nations. And that, I am sure my own party will support that decision because that's our philosophy. And for the first time, we're in front of the real possibility of opening Pemex before it sinks in the depth seas of the Gulf of Mexico. We need a dynamic Pemex, we need a dynamic, competitive oil industry, and we need that to be able to have the resources that the nation needs to cover its urgent needs of education, health, and health. So I really back up what he said, and of course we have to be very careful and always vigilant of ensuring that the income is well invested in human capital, in infrastructure, health.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. I have a comment and a question. First of all, I wanted to say thank you for opening up telecommunications in Nigeria. I think that has been very fundamental to the private growth that you have spoken about. And if we hadn't seen that, we wouldn't. It's opened up a lot of businesses, opened up a lot of connections for places far away from each other in Nigeria. My second question is about, the second thing I want to talk about is a question, and it's about the whole Boko Haram issue. While you were president, there were violent conflicts like that which we were able to contain. Now we're seeing an escalation of Boko Haram, and it doesn't seem like it's being contained. If you were president today, how would you try to contain that so it doesn't escalate?
Yeah, again, to put you on the same wavelength with her, obviously she must have been a Nigerian. Or if not, she must be very highly interested in events in Nigeria that she knows about Boko Haram. Boko Haram is a new phenomenon in our country. We have always had one problem of security or the other. When I was elected in 1999, the problem I inherited was the problem of militants in the Niger Delta. But as she rightly said, there were other problems in the Jos Plateau area. There was a problem of native and indigenous and settlers. But these problems were addressed, they were attended to. Boko Haram is a new phenomenon. And I believe that it's a phenomenon that emanated from three things. One, religious fundamentalism. Two, economic problem. And three, social problem. If you ask me how I will solve the Boko Haram issue, I would say the key on the long term is education and job creation. On the long term, education and job creation. Now, of course, with that, we have to reinforce our values, our ethics, our morality, and all that. What President Fox referred to as our humanity. But that will be medium and long term. In the short term, what do we do? And I will give you an example of what I did. When I became elected president in 1999, as I said, I was faced with the problem of militants in the Niger Delta. I left government 20 years earlier. There wasn't anything like that. So the first thing I wanted to know is why. And I asked people around, I visited the place, I walked around and investigated. And then I got about 40 of those, the leaders of the militants. I gave them assurance that nothing will happen to them, they should come. And I sent people to the creek area where they are, where they were operating, and they came. And with me and them in my council chamber, my cabinet council, and my chief of staff, we started dialogue. Why are you doing this? What are your problems? And while they were there, one will say, oh, you killed my father, so I kill your brother. Right there. Then my chief of staff turned to me and said, Mr. President, you are sitting among murderers. I said, yes, I know. So he kept quiet. After about 10 minutes, the dialogue continues, and they were throwing all sorts of things at themselves. My chief of staff said to me again, Mr. President, how do you want me to explain to the world that my president is sitting among murderers? I said, Mr. Chief of Staff, tell the world that your president has problems and he was looking for solution to his problem. Now, he was a man of, conscience and all that. So after another 10 minutes, he said, sir, will you excuse me? I cannot take this. I said, if you want to go, you are free to go. You have no problem. You are not the president. I am the president. I am the president. I am the one who has problem, and I must look for solution. And if sitting among murderers will get me the solution that I need, so be it. Now, I think we need to find out. Now, I don't think anybody will just bind himself up with gunpowder and detonate it, and knowing that he will die. Now, what can bring that about? High indoctrination for whatever. High belief in something, or frustration, real deep frustration that leads to desperation. But whatever it is, we need to know it. And it's only when we know it that we can find solution to it. That's my answer.
Very good. Very good. One more, please. One last. Got it there? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Marquise Moore. I'm from Paul Lawrence Dunbar High School, and I was able to see you talk earlier today at TCU, and I wanted to ask you a question, but I didn't have enough time. I just wanted to know, I have two questions. I wanted to know, what as a teenager can I do to implement change when so many are scared of or scared to? And also, I know time is of the essence, but I was wondering, could I have this gentleman ask a question? He had a great question. Could I have him ask a question for me?
Yeah. What did you say?
Juan, ¿qué dice?
Thank you. I was not expecting that at all.
That he wants to know, what does it take to be a leader?
My name is Dr. Remy Yakwaba, and I'm the president of the West Africa America Chamber of Commerce and Industries in Dallas. First of all, it's an honor to be here, sir, and thank you. The question I have is that the discussion that you made about the opportunities of investment in West Africa, particularly Nigeria. I think Nigeria is a hidden market, at least not to the Chinese, but to America. A month ago, I had the opportunity to visit the ambassador of Nigeria, Dr. Adefeyi. Through him, he sponsored with the Corporate Council of Africa a fantastic conference in terms of educating the opportunities of investment. What I wanted to ask you, sir, could you elaborate more? What is the government now doing at the governmental level to protect American investors? Because we hear all these rumors about corruption, about non-accountability. And could you indicate more about what Nigeria is doing at the governmental level and at the business community to protect American investors, to convince them that their money is and the interest is protected? Please, thank you.
Well, you want to
No, good question. Go ahead.
Now, I think the first question is about leadership, isn't it? Yes. And the second question is about investment in Nigeria and protection of American investment. because of corruption and all the other things you hear. Let me deal with the first question, the last question first. I will not put the question the way you have put it. I will have put the question this way. What is Nigerian government doing about protection of all investment, not just American investment? Because an investment is an investment. Even domestic investment has to be protected. I've told you that I'm a chicken farmer. I put some money in my chicken farm. It has to be protected. Let me say this, that the judicial system works in Nigeria, but of course I will say that it can still work a bit better. That is the first thing. The second thing is that, particularly when I was in government, we fought corruption almost to a standstill. I did not say that we eliminated corruption, but we fought corruption to the point where corruption ceased to be a way of life. And I will say this, and if anybody wants to contradict me, he can. I don't know of any society in the world, any country, which is absolutely free of corruption. But I know many countries in the world where corruption is not a way of life. You cannot perpetrate corruption with impunity. And that, I believe, is what we should be doing. And that, I believe, Nigerian government should continue to do. Maybe they can do a little bit more than they are doing. Now, let me come to the first question. How can you be a leader? What do you need to be a leader? I think that question was asked in the morning. And I said that the first thing is that you need to be educated. That is the first thing. You must be educated. I'm talking of general education to start with, but you have to go beyond that. Some people then ask, how can you go into politics? I hope that your question is not being a political leader, but even if it is being a political leader, whatever leader you want to be, political, military, diplomatic, academic, whatever, you must be educated. It is an age-old story or debate whether leaders are born or leaders are made. For me, now leaders are born and made. You must have certain innate qualities that you are born with, and then you acquire and develop as you go along. So, and I did say in the morning that nothing succeeds like success. I believe those who want to get to position of leadership, in addition to education they might have had, general, special, specific, whatever, professional and all. Nothing is as important as interacting with those who have something to offer. You can, as I said in the morning, you can at least learn from the mistakes of those who have gone before. And there's nobody who will say he, with the benefit of hindsight, he has not made any mistake at all. Because things, the factors that you have to, that you are confronted with might have changed. You might have not seen all the all the facts and factors that might not have been put before you. So, preparation, and if it's political, I say, well, look, you may be as lucky as President Fox and myself. President Fox started in the private sector. He was a big Coca-Cola man, and then he went to politics at the top. I was a military man. I finished up as a 4-star general. Then I went to politics at the top. Not very often will you get that. But if you get that, you are lucky. You may have to start from the community. And if you are a community man, you are known within your community, that may be the pedestal on which you can go up to high political office. That's what I will say about leadership. But your leadership must have content. Please, what are you for? What is your leadership for? For service to humanity? How do you want to make it? What do you want to contribute? What do you want to be noted for? What's your objective? Even your education, education for what? Not to talk of leadership for what? And if leadership, your leadership will not have the content of making your community, the world you are in, a better place than you have met it, then to me you are not a leader.
Muy bien.
Do you have any last words, President, please?
Muy bien, muy bien. One idea I take from this interesting and most enriching conversation is that the world is changing. That the leaders that we knew on the Western civilization seem to be tired. The European Union is in crisis, not growing. The United States is moving slowly and losing part of the leadership worldwide. As Friedman says, it's not the decline of those, but it's the rise of the other. We just have heard one figure. Africa's gross product as a region has overpassed 3 trillion and growing at a fast rate. Latin America is getting close to 5 trillion worth of economy in the region and growing at a fast pace. Of course, the so well-known cases of India and China. also moving pretty fast. So opportunities are everywhere. And what we have to have is like a periscope that we look around 360 degrees. Many times we concentrate within our nations, and we lose the sight of what's going on elsewhere in the world. It's a very, very dynamic world. What China has built in 25 years is comparable, and I would say is more than what this nation has built in infrastructure in 250 years. What they have built in 25 years, 300 million middle class. In those 25 years, it's more than what this nation has done in 250 years. So we must keep an eye on what's going on around the world. And just complementing finally the case of leadership. Yes, we at Centro Fox are totally convinced that we all are leaders, that we all are born leaders, and we're leaders all the time of our life. But if we don't go within ourselves, if we don't learn who am I and what my capacities and resources are, if we don't discover our leadership, we go through life in mediocrity. So this is a key issue. Unfortunately, in this world, this 21st century will be built by leaders, by persons, by individuals. Many of us here in this room, all that are in universities in this great nation and elsewhere in the world, they're going to take the lead. And they're going to keep shaping and building this world that we all aspire to live in. So keep an eye on what's going on in the rest of the world. I really praise what they're doing in TCU, what they do in different universities, to give the opportunity to kids to go out elsewhere and find out what's going on in the rest of the world. Many, many things are happening. So thank you very much, President. I think it's been an inspiring, enriching night. We will continue, as Juan already mentioned. We have 2 more to go, and as we have been reflecting, I guess we have to go further. There's still many more leaders that can come to this room.
Yes. If I can add a personal note, and these are 2 very spiritual men also. During the campaign of Vicente Fox, when he was running for president against a party that had been in power for 71 years, I saw him, without him knowing I was in the room, on his knees seeking help from above. And President Obasanjo mentioned to me this afternoon, he said, when I finished my presidency, I went back to the university to study theology because I wanted to learn more about God. A great commitment to our community, and great men trying to find also why am I here and what do you have in mind for me in this world. Thank you so much for all of you coming. Our mayor, Betsy Price, has a couple of presents for our individuals. Will you please address us?
President Obasanjo, we were delighted to hear your message tonight, and I think that everybody enjoyed that. Let's give him another round of applause. Thank you for taking the time to come to Fort Worth, and we hope you'll have fond memories of this. President Fox, this is for you for continuing to bring this series to Fort Worth, which is the best city in the Metroplex.
Wow.
We did not recognize tonight, but I've had the pleasure of sitting tonight with the Nigerian ambassador to the U.S., and I wanted to give him a small token, who flew in from Washington today to be with his former boss. So we wanted to give Ambassador a small gift from Fort Worth.
Gracias. Gracias. Gracias.
Thank you all very, very much. Nos vemos pronto.